Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. Quick thank you to Spreaker for getting this podcast in your speakers or earbuds. Quick thank you to Bell Jar for the intro and outro music. Mike, we just want to say hello, beautiful. March is here. We have a few places to explore right off the top of the pod. Holy smokes, there's a lot of things to cover here, Mike. Do you want to start with the Bengals and Susanna Hoff? Do we need to light a flame for your eternal flame, UIC, who just missed advancing to the big dance in the Horizon Finals? They lost to the Norse after shooting a beatdown, a 73-56 beatdown over Wright State. Your guy, Tarks Ferguson, was unbelievable during the tournament. Mike, are you okay over there?
I am, yes. Thank you to Illinois, Chicago, and the Flames. A 3-1 tournament against the spread for them. I'll certainly take that. I tell you, we watch a lot of games. Bro, you and I watch a ton, more than anybody I know. I saw Illinois, Chicago a couple times. I saw them against Wright State. I saw them in the huge beatdown they had over Northern Kentucky. And I didn't know a lot about them. But when I started seeing this backcourt and the three seniors, and they had Blount came back from the torn MCL, so they had all five starters back. It was a team that I thought was undervalued in the tournament. They made quite a run. In the end, Northern Kentucky, who battled through injuries to Dantes Walton, who battled through injuries with Jalen Tate, are finally healthy. They peaked at the right time. I thought Illinois Chicago could keep it closer, and they made a run. They got down big, then they made another run. They got down big again, but in the end, they just fell a little short. But thanks to Susanna Hoffs and the Bengals and Illinois, Chicago, we had some fun. 3-1. I'll take it in the tournament.
No doubt. And if you look at that team, they bring like literally 99% of their scoring and playing time back from last season. So when you have that type of continuity on your roster, it was just a matter of time until it started to click for them, and it definitely clicked at the right time, and it almost clicked them a ticket to the big dance. Mike, you've been on that squad for a little bit, and you were right on cue. Mike, I guess the next question is, did you wash your hands before the podcast?
Yes, constant washing the hands, yes.
The Ivy has canceled its postseason tournament just after having it for 3 seasons. It was planned to take place in Cambridge, Massachusetts, up in Harvard. This has loads of larger implications, but I guess my first question is, what was your initial takeaway, aside from checking in on our podcast friend, Columbia graduate, Dr. Tony?
It's a disaster. It's a disaster for so many reasons, and I get it. These are precautions. We have to do this. I understand. But it's the only way that Yale would have beat Harvard. Yale can't beat Harvard. We talked about this. Death, taxes, and Yale beats Harvard. The tournament was supposed to be hosted at Harvard, as if it could be any worse for Yale. So Yale sneaks in. Now, listen, I understand that every year before 2017, this is how the Ivy League did it. I understand that. So this is a little unique in that this is how the Ivy always used to do it. But it's a little frustrating to change the rules as the year goes on. We all thought this was going to be at Harvard. The last few years we had the 4 teams in the tournament, 2 in a row, and the winner goes on. But just frustrating because Yale doesn't deserve to go in. Harvard beat them twice. Harvard didn't have a great season, but it's not like this was a dominant 16-1-ish type team in the conference, and everyone's like, okay, fine. Harvard has a legitimate gripe, and they had the tournament at home.
Totally agree. I guess I'm okay with sending the regular season champ to the tournament, but when you change the blueprint and you have that tournament in place and then you're going to cancel it, I think there's some inequities there. I also think if we're going to take a quick peek at the women's side, when we talked to Howard Megel, he said that Princeton was one of his dark horse Final Four teams on the women's side, so thank goodness they won the regular season title. Otherwise, I think we would have even more outcry for that Princeton team on the women's side if they didn't make it. And I think the other part with this too is we need to see how many more conferences, arenas, programs, and venues are going to follow suit here. I think it's interesting. Mike, do you have a crystal ball that tells us, or can spring and the thaw and getting outside and having fresh air, can that save us? Or is this just going to dominate and be one of the biggest talking points during the tournament this season?
No, it's going to continue, and there's a real chance. I don't think they're going to cancel the tournament because there's too much money involved. But we've now seen the WAC has limited to no fans. They're just going to play the game in front of empty arenas. And teams like Chicago State canceled their end of season games that they had going into the tournament. So I think it's going to linger. I think it's going to linger. It's going to be it's going to put a downer on things, and they're going to hope that things get under wraps and things slow down a little bit in time for the Final Four.
I hope so too. And you saw the MAC also took some action that they're going to have some necessary precautions when they're going to play games. They're going to have limited audience members. If at this point, maybe even something further as far as we're broadcasting right now or podcasting right now. Mike, let's change the dialogue a little bit, because another thing we have to pay attention to as far as venues go with March Madness and the tournament is this is the first time that the NCAA tournament is going to be in a state where sports gambling is legal. There hasn't been, prior to this, it was Nevada, and there's never been an NCAA game in Nevada as far as I can tell with my research, which is a little loosey-goosey. But, Mike, over at the Action Network, this is a big deal. There's games going to be taking place in Indiana and New York. There's going to be games taking place in Illinois and Michigan, and their sports books are going to be opening this week. This is kind of a big deal. Can you explain to the listeners why it's such a big deal that we're going to have sports gambling legal in the same state that the games are taking place?
I used to have this argument with a good friend of mine who's a huge Nova fan. We know him very well. And he used to always say the game was more fun when you had a wager on it. And we used to laugh about this because you and I are tournament junkies. And we used to say, you don't need a wager. We'll sit down and watch Illinois, Chicago, Northern Kentucky and don't need a wager. But I will tell you that now that I've gone on Action Network, I've done the picks. You and I do the picks from time to time. Last year we went back and forth. We did it for the patrons, all that stuff. I have found that my interest is increasing. I'm noticing more things from those games, and I'm noticing trends. I'm noticing that Gonzaga's hit 80% of their overs, and tonight it looks like they're flying by that again. These are things that you notice from wagering perspective. And listen, it's fun. It's legal. They're taxing it. They can make income, and the states are flying across the board here. There are so many great opportunities for wagering, jobs. It's creating revenue. It's fun. It's another way to get involved in the sports. And listen, we know we have friends that work in the NBA, NFL. They're a little slow, maybe. The NFL, not as much because there's so much time between the games. But of course, you're always worried about fixing and things like that. But it's something, Gus, that everyone's going to have to embrace. It's happening. It's just like we talked about the players getting licensed for their name and their likeness, right? Like it's inevitable. It has to happen. And this is another one of those things. It's going to be very commonplace. And I do feel, at least I hope, that if you make it commonplace, like you'll take the sneakiness out of it. When it's so obvious and everyone talks about it, you'll take away the element of people trying to fix games because it'll just be something that's out there. So I love it. I enjoy it. You know that I'm making the picks. Things have been really hot here last 30 days. Fantastic results. So it's coming. Embrace it. It doesn't mean degenerate. It doesn't mean people losing millions of dollars. You have to bet within your means, but people are doing it anyway. Right now with the online, MyBookie was sponsoring us last year. You can find it all over the place.
The bracket challenges alone move billions of dollars around the world annually for this event. The NCAA would be wise to include all the states, all the venues, all the arenas, regardless if sports betting is legal or not. That should not go into the decision making. And you made the parallel here, Mike, and you hit on a touch. Much like the amateurism rule and the name, image, and likeness, the NCAA should just get with the times, even though they're sagging behind the times by light years on both matters. And I think the state by state is kind of interesting with the gambling angle. And I also think maybe that might be the way that the name and likeness follow suit state by state, and then they kind of have to figure out a solution from there. I think there's going to be more changes coming, and I bet next season, not this season, but I bet next season, we'll see some lines as far as the crawl goes and part of the informational package that you get surrounding the tournament more and more. I think that's going to be information that's going to be shared readily, and you're not going to have to go to certain places to find it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I could see it happening, and it's coming, folks. It's coming. I know there's some really resistant states, Florida, things like that. It's coming, guys. Come on.
Yeah. It's coming, and guess what? If you are in one of those states, you can find another way to do it. There's no doubt about it. All right, Mike, let's talk about some dance tickets that got punched. One of those was in the horizon. We viewed a little bit of this game prior to the podcast. Your Flames couldn't quite topple Northern Kentucky. Turnovers were key here. It seemed like the Flames had a few too many turnovers. And I'll tell you what, in the first half, Jalen Tate was just excellent. He looked like the best player on the floor. and it looked like he could kind of do anything he wanted on the offensive side of the floor whenever he wanted. He's kind of interesting. And I think the other part that you have to pay attention to and take into account now that Northern Kentucky is in the bracket is you have to remember the what their coach has done. I believe he was part of that coaching staff that took San Diego to the tournament. I believe that he made a Sweet 16 run at his former stop. So it's not like he doesn't know how to prep these underdog-ish type teams for these big events. I think they're a team worth paying attention to, and especially if you have a guy like Tate that can kind of do and get wherever he wants on the floor offensively.
Tate and Walton being healthy is a game changer. Now Tyler Sharp is all of a sudden open more than he normally is. Illinois Chicago did a great job here. They limited Northern Kentucky to just 6 of 21 from three-point range. That's 28%, okay? Illinois Chicago is a very good three-point shooting team. They're actually the best three-point shooting team coming into the Horizon tournament. They struggled. They only had 4 made threes in the last game. I thought they'd have some regression here, even though the Norse really do defend the three well. But Illinois Chicago only 3 of 15. You got to get a couple more there. If they went 5 of 15, they went 33%, which is below their average. They're going to win this game. Kudos to Northern Kentucky. I have questions whether, because now every time a ticket gets punched, Gus, we're going to look at them, right? Can they win a game in the tournament? I don't see that with Northern Kentucky. I think that they've battled through the injuries, and I know Walton's healthy and Tate's healthy, but this still wasn't a great three-point shooting performance, which is what they're going to have, because they're probably going to face a team with a good big inside. Now, if they face a top team that doesn't have a big, we can get a little frisky. But Northern Kentucky, I'm a little apprehensive on them. I'm not as high. Illinois Chicago, with their superior defense and their flammable three-point shooting, was a team that I would have really liked. But great win for Northern Kentucky. Battled through a lot of adversity this year. Really did. Kudos to them. Kudos to Darren Horn. Excellent job for Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I think Coach Horn has done an unbelievable job with that program, and they're kind of a force in the Horizon over the past 4 years. Let's go to the NEC. Little local hoops for us. We had St. Francis taking on Robert Morris. And the Robert Morris sophomore point guard, Deontay Trace, was just doing about everything for Romo. He filled up the box score, hit a couple of threes. I was pretty impressed with his play. And I have to tell you, you talked about defending the three. Robert Morris defended the three unbelievably well in this game. They held St. Francis to 16 or 17% from behind the line. And I love Keith Braxton. He's one of those do-everything wings in mid-major basketball that you just root for. You look up and he has a double-double already. So they did a great job defending on him and making him work really hard for all of his points and all of his rebounds. So Robert Morris going dancing, pretty impressed, taking down Keith Braxton and the Red Flash.
Yeah, I like the Red Flash here. I went on with Matthew Freeman on SiriusXM again this morning for Action Network, and we talked about this game. I kind of like St. Francis here. Was impressed by Robert Morris. Gave a really solid game, one of their better games they've had the entire year. They were better with the turnovers tonight, only 9. St. Francis had 11. Excellent point by you. They did limit the Red Flash, 3 of 17 from three-point range. Blackman and Braxton, 38 combined points, but that was it. No assists, no help from anyone else. Tracy was a man inside. He was fantastic across the board. 18 points, 2 of 4 from three-point range, 5 assists. So great job by him. Robert Morris to Colonials, excellent job. Of course, I have to say, Gus, that this is really a tainted title to me because the number 1 team, the Merrimack Warriors, were not in this. Joe Gallo, great job. First year here in Division I, they actually won the regular season. So great job by Robert Morris. Probably not going to be backing them a lot. Maybe they do the playing game. That's a possibility. But Merrimack really was the class of this conference. So shame that for some ridiculous reason they can't play in the tournament their first year. What does that even mean? I have no idea.
I don't know. That's another rule that the NCAA has to get straightened out. If you're going to be that dominant, then why not just amend that midseason and be like, okay, yeah, you're in. And we talked about that with Kevin Connors. He brought up Merrimack as well. Thought that was one of the best stories in college basketball.
Yeah, everybody. If you didn't hear that interview that Gus did with Kevin Connors, it was superior. It was a great interview that covered a ton of topics. Kevin and Gus have a great rapport. He does an excellent job. A lot of information, chess, the whole thing. It was a really excellent job.
He was so fun. Kevin was great. He was real. Again, the coolest thing about doing this podcast and talking to you get to go on a spot this morning We get to talk to a bunch of cool people. Just the kindness that our guests show us all the time. We're just thank you to all of our guests throughout the whole entire season. Everybody's been really cool and just generous with their time and their knowledge. And Kevin was no different in that regard. Let's get to Robert Morris. I think the playing game. They got playing game written all over them on Tuesday.
Yeah, I saw a stat, Gus, that the NEC tournament winner has lost the playing game 6 years in a row. I think something like that. So they're going to be in that playing game and probably pick them to lose. But whatever.
Yeah, you might want to trend. You might want to stick with that trend. Let's go a little hometown for me. A little CAA finals. We had Northeastern, a little bit of a surprise, playing Hofstra, one of our favorites. We had the Hoff versus Jordan Rowland. Jordan Rowland was balled out this year. He put up 40 against Harvard early this year and averaged 22 points a game. The Pride dance on, and they're led by veteran guard Eli Pemberton. Pemberton was great all season, and this game was no different. He scored 19 points, and he led the Pride to their first invite in what seems like forever. And really cool for Joe Mihalik and his Hofstra Pride program to finally get over the hump. It seems like they've made the finals a couple of different times and had that sadness. They had an unbelievable season last season. But I'm kind of pulling a little bit for Hofstra here. I don't know if they're going to be like one of those teams that you kind of figure out a way to win a game in the tournament. But I'll tell you what, it's cool to see a local team do well.
Great to see a local team do well. Joe Mihalik having on a podcast. He's done a great job there. Right. This is a DGAF team, and that is dangerous. Desir Bowie, Eli Pemberton, they don't care. They will pull. If you look at this team between Jalen Ray, Bowie, and Eli Pemberton, they were 9 of 20 from three-point range. That's 45%. They made 10 of 25 threes as a team. That's 40%. Northeastern, this is a rematch of what happened last year. Hofstra was the regular season champ, only one game ahead of Northeastern. Northeastern comes in, beats them, goes to the tournament, plays very well. So Hofstra got over the hump. I thought they would get over the hump. They did not slow down the last two games. They think they had a slow first half in their initial game, and they blew them out second half. So they've been on a roll. I thought they were on a mission. Mihalik was hugging Desir Bowie, telling him how much he loves him at the end of the game. Hofstra dangerous, folks. They don't care. They'll pull up from three, DGAF. They're fired up. Really good coach. First time they qualified, Gus, since 2001.
That's how long it's been. I knew it was a while. I didn't have that stat right in front of me, but I knew it's been a little bit. And let's not sleep on. Every one of these teams needs somebody to start the offense with a defensive rebound, and that guy is Isaac Conte. Like he's an undersized five man. He's the
very true.
The guy that every mid-major counts on, and he's done unbelievable dirty work. 15 rebounds in the championship game.
6 offensive, man, big time. That's a great point.
He's been great. I mean, those and a lot of those offensive rebounds are kickouts for threes for the guys that you just mentioned. That's unbelievable. All right, let's get to a couple games that are underway. I think we can kind of maybe put this one in the books for the Summit League. We had North Dakota versus North Dakota State. North Dakota State was 24-8 during the season. The Bison seemed to be just a little bit too much for North Dakota to handle here. I kind of like 6'6" senior guard Tyson Ward. He's a player to keep an eye on for the Bison. He can shoot it a little bit from three, around 37% from the season, and does a little bit of everything. And then don't forget, when you have one of these teams, you need that senior point guard that's been there. And Vinny Shaheda is that guy. He's put up 18 points per game, 3 assists, 3 boards, and he's averaging over 20 points a game over his last 4 games, or just during crunch time when his team needs to win. So it seems like the Bison are moving on.
Yeah, this one, I talked to Freeman about this one also. Had this one from start to finish. I know they split during the regular season, Gus, but North Dakota 7-9. North Dakota State class of the conference 13-3. They got off to a flying start. Shaheed is tremendous. He's already got 21 points. There's 7 minutes left. He's dominated from start to finish. And that backcourt you have there with North Dakota State, with Shaheed and Ward, very, very dangerous. Like this team a lot. Double figures. They shoot it. Disciplined, love this team. This one was not close. It was that frisky number. I said 5.5 is always a number that makes people a little nervous, and it's covered a lot. Not in this one. No chance. Summit League champs are going to be the North Dakota State Bison, and they head into the tournament.
Absolutely. They might be a Tuesday, Wednesday team, or maybe they'll sneak in a 15 seed, we'll see. But let's see, and I think the other game that's going on right now is, of course, one of the biggies that we always love paying attention to, St. Mary's Gonzaga out on the West Coast. The pace in the first half seems to favor the Zags. The scores was up in the 40s. Fitz and Ford were doing everything offensively to keep pace here. Fitz hit 4 or 5 threes in the first half. Ford had this unbelievably goofy-legged, opposite left-handed layup over Biggs that was just that was highlight stuff. that you would put on like your N1 mixtape. It was that incredible. And I'll tell you another thing. Timmy, he appeared to be like unguardable in the post in the first half. And it seemed like he was kind of getting whatever he wanted whenever he touched the ball in the paint. Really impressed with his game. I've been impressed with him all season, but in this particular game, it seemed like he was putting everything together that he had learned during the season from that coaching staff and practicing with that unbelievable team. It seems like Gonzaga's up 3, 4, 5, 6 as we're podcasting right now. Do you have a feel on this game? Did you talk about this game earlier, and what'd you project?
I did. I said Gonzaga's going to roll them. I feel very comfortable. I think the spread was 8.5. I gave it. I know it was close. Listen, Jordan Ford is a special player again, and folks, if you've been paying attention to the podcast, I'm telling you right now, because I pay attention when Gus talks, and so should you. He talked about Jordan Ford a year or two ago. He was talking about Jordan Ford. He's been right on the money. Here's the next one. Have you listened to Gus? Have you listened how he talked with Kevin Connors about Tyler Roden of Seton Hall? There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Tyler Roden is having a Big East tournament or he's hitting a game-winning shot. If you can get a future bet on Tyler Roden either having 20 or more points or hitting the game-winning shot, I'm going to take it right now, because that's the sort of instinct you have, and you said it. Jordan Ford is a special player. That BYU game last night, yes, I stayed up, #basketball narcolepsy, and watched the whole thing. BYU, it was over. St. Mary's was tired. They looked really disjointed in the first half. Turnovers, Malik Fitz on the side of a milk carton. Ford was exhausted. Randy Bennett pulled Jordan Ford with 6 minutes to go in the first half, and St. Mary's was down 7. He sat him. The lead was 6. They actually cut the lead by 1 at the half, and I put on Twitter, this is a problem. BYU got sloppy. Here we go with Yoli Childs doing Yoli Childs smacking people's ears and joking around. Fun times with Childs. Here comes. The guy can be dominant. It can be a little fun time. They were missing a couple guys. Colby Lee was out. He had the flu or he had something. Dalton Nixon. So here we go. And then Tyler Hawes. And then, it was just a disjointed game. They hung around. They're hanging around. That's what he was doing. And Jordan Ford got the ball in the game. Gus would have given 100-1 that he's making the shot. No doubt in my mind. He did the old skates there. Defender flies by, bangs it in. Jordan Ford's a special player, but they're tired, man. The Gales are tired. Gonzaga, good gritty battle against San Fran. No problem. Shabazz is tough. Ratino, okay, I understand. They survived and advanced. They're going to wear this game down. It's 61-52 right now with 11 minutes left, okay? By the time we get off this podcast, it's going to be 15. You can take it to the bank. It's not that St. Mary's can't hang with them. They absolutely can. It's not that Jordan Ford is as good as any player in Gonzaga. He absolutely is. It's just they're tired. And right now it's 12. Okay, they're tired. It's going to happen. And Gonzaga is dangerous. Petrusev inside. You've talked about him. He's got to be third-team All-American. No doubt about it. Tilly is now the guy off the bench who's doing some stuff, and he'll be the next guy that I hate. Okay, fine. But this team is dangerous. Last night, Ayayi, who is my favorite, Zag, by the way, guys, I need to admit, Joel Ayayi is my favorite Zag. 100%. Love the guy. This is a dangerous team. It's 12. It's going to be 20 by the time we go off the pod. Don't worry about it.
Okay, fair enough. You heard it here, people. That's an unbelievable breakdown. That was tremendous. So I'll throw my 2 cents in on there. The fact that Coach Bennett went off his coaching script that he has followed the entire season in that game shows you just how much he's changed as a coach this particular season. You can also pay attention to their scheduling this particular season, which, Coach Few kind of called out the rest of the conference and said, like, hey, can we step up here a little bit?
Remember they smoked Arizona State? It was Arizona State they smoked, right? Where they had like 65 threes or something like that? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And by the way, if any team wants to get up and down, like Arizona State wants to get up and down, and they just totally schooled them at their own game. So he went off his own coaching script this season, whether it be scheduling and in that particular moment with Ford, because Ford's averaging 40 minutes a game. They never comes out. He's insane. So the fact that he recognized that in a desperate moment and made a unscripted coaching move, maybe he does something like that in the tournament too, where we can't predict what they're going to do. And maybe the Gales surprise somebody and win a couple of games that they're not supposed to win.
And Gus, I'm sorry. One more thing.
I was really thrown off by
one more thing about BYU. A couple things. Number one, Pope can't get technical. Why get technical? You're winning. What's the problem? Why you get technical? Can't get technical. You're going to give Jordan Ford 3 points. I mean, seriously. And by the way, Gus, the turnovers out of control. Totally out of control turnovers. They're turning the ball over. Jordan Ford isn't on the court. So that means we're turning the ball over to Tanner Krebs. And that's all I got to say right there. If you don't know who Tanner Krebs is, look him up. It's just BYU passed an opportunity. We've seen it, Gus, in high school when we played together. We've seen it. If you let a team hang around that is not as good as you or is tired, which is what St. Mary's was, they're exhausted. If you lay it hang around, they're going to lose. I was waiting for Malik Fitz to hit a 3 to win the game just so you could give me the finger. I saw it coming. He had a terrible game. Here, I go, Ford's going to drive, he's going to kick to Fitz, and Fitz is just going to flip me off. I saw it coming. But no, what it was Jordan Ford just making a move and getting wide open. That was much better.
It's Jordan Ford doing Jordan
Ford like things. That's
yes. He's absolutely insane. I absolutely adore watching him play. He's fantastic. All right, so I think that's... I have one more BYU thing. I'm all for let's push the pace and can some threes. But if you're going to do that, then you have to do it the way that Gonzaga does it. You have to take care of the ball while you're doing it.
Yes, they were terrible.
You can't just say, like, okay, we're going to push pace and let's go. You have to push pace with purpose. You can't push pace and then just say we're gonna jack a whole bunch of threes and see what happens on the break. No, you have to push pace and have an end result in mind. It seemed like that game they did not have that end result in mind on multiple offensive opportunities.
Gus, they thought it was over. I could tell by the body language. They thought it was over. When they got up 7 early and they hit a couple deep threes, the game was over in their mind, and they let him back in. It got to like 11, like the 17-minute mark of the second half, and I'm like, make it 20, don't make it 5, don't make it 5. Here we go, Jordan Ford, fun times with Jordan Ford. Here we go. That's it. I honestly wanted to bet the reverse end game because I saw it coming. When it got from 11 to 6, I'm like, this isn't going back to 12. There's no chance. But I already had the bet in, so I committed.
Fine. I think it's okay to leave that alone and just enjoy the game at that moment and not try to hustle to do that. That sounds about right. Okay, let's go a little bit off script here and maybe talk about our 6-pack of games here. We're going to give you a couple games on Wednesday and a couple games on Thursday, and we'll give you our feel on it and what we think might happen in those particular games. Now, a lot of these games, it was tough picking them because a lot of them are to be announced. So we tried to pick games that had some certainty with them, and we'll start with the Patriot League Championship game Wednesday night, 7:30. BU is going to play Colgate, and we talked about this a tiny bit previously. And I think this is just the passing of the guard. And I think Colgate is going to run out, and I think they're going to win by double digits here. I don't think this is going to be a contest. So I think if you're looking at a game where you're looking for a kind of a bigger margin, I think this is the game. Colgate's been dominant all season. They showed how great they were last season, and I think they are taking the role that Bucknell once owned in this league years previous, and they're going to be the dominant team. And I don't think it's going to be in any doubt tomorrow night. 7:30 in the Patriot League final.
Already picked a partner. I did Colgate -7 on the Action app. Listen,
have to.
BYU, solid job on the boards. They're going to pound the boards. They're number 1 in conference play on defensive rebounding, and they're number 2 on offensive rebounding. So that's going to be their strength here. The problem is they don't make their free throws, BU, 66.9% in conference play. And by the way, Colgate's had some... Colgate has actually, teams have not shot free throws well against Colgate, which I understand, but BU can't take advantage of that. They're just not a team that does free throws well. Colgate's offense is superior across the board. They're number 1, Gus and Ken Pom, adjusted offensive efficiency, 3-point percentage, and free throw shooting. They make their free throws. By the way, you're also dealing with a Colgate team that is a veteran team, experienced. They're 76, average experience is at least 2 years. Love Colgate across the board. BU did a nice job getting here. It is not going to happen. I agree with you. I am all aboard the Raiders here. Now, they played BU during the year. What happened, do you ask? No problem. They played BU home and they won by 9. Then they played BU on the road and won by 16. And I hope you know, folks, it's been out on social media. The idea of this, a team can't beat another team 3 times, that is a wives' tale. That is a bunch of garbage. Like sometimes the third game is at a site closer to the underdog, but in general, if you beat the team twice, you're probably going to beat them a third time. That is not a true statement. They're home. You're telling me BU is going to go on the road to Colgate, who's been the best team from start to finish, 14-4 in conference, and is going to beat them at home when they don't make free throws? Is that what you're telling me? I see this being 20-6 to start the game.
I am kind of in the same boat. I have a double-digit score in my head as well. And look, if you're going to look, and one of the things you always default to in one of these games is the best player on the floor, and I think Colgate probably has the best player on the floor, Jordan Burns. So I think that's another thing to pay attention to if you're going to decide who your winner is going to be in these championships.
And Gus, last year wasn't Ivanauskas? Wasn't he the player of the year in the conference last year?
Right, exactly.
It's
bingo bango. Okay. All right. So let's go with an old school matchup, right? And this is one that the names are going to like elicit like feelings for some of our listeners out there, especially some of the listeners on the East Coast. And it's going to be St. John's at Georgetown, MSG, 7:00, Fox Sports 1. What else do you want? You got Patrick Ewing on one sideline. I know you have Mike Anderson on the other sideline, so it's not like this Chris Mullin Patrick Ewing matchup. But you still have St. John's on one of its home floors playing Georgetown team, coached by legendary NBA 50 greatest player of all time, Patrick Ewing. This is just a great game to just sit back and like just get a little flavor from. I'm not saying you have to sit there and watch every play and be invested in the outcome, but I am going to say there is something a little nostalgic about this, and I'm looking forward to like experiencing that nostalgia when tuning into this game and watching these two teams match up in the Garden for the Big East tournament. If I was going to have a lean one way or the other, I would lean the home team, St. John's, but I would say Georgetown's going to keep it close because they have been playing unbelievably hard every game, even though they're down a man or two injury-wise. You know, they've missed McClung for a whole bunch. Yurcevson has missed a whole bunch of time as well. I'll take the home team here, but I think Georgetown is going to be live, and I don't think they're going to go down easy.
Yeah, Georgetown did a nice job there with that comeback against Villanova. This is a frisky game. I'll say this. Without Martin Zagorowski being available for Creighton for the entire Big East tournament, they are a vulnerable top seed. Absolutely. I am not picking Creighton on any futures. So St. John's already pounded Creighton with Zagorowski at Carnesecca Arena, not at Madison Square Garden. But I don't see Georgetown, and Ewing's done a phenomenal job this year, by the way. Kudos to him for navigating this team through all the problems in the beginning. Only 6 scholarship players, now no McClung and no Yurtseven. Kudos to him. I like St. John's to get through. I want them to get through, partner, because I think they will beat Creighton. I really do. I think Creighton without Zagorowski, every team's a Jenga puzzle. You can't lose a point guard in a team that like plays the way they do, where they shoot threes. That's a tough draw. They still don't have Mintz. They didn't have Mintz in the beginning of the year. So it's not like they have their full roster. So if St. John's gets through, I am pushing them automatically through against Creighton, and I'm definitely putting them on the spread. Georgetown, I don't know. They've played real well. They've been very gamey. I understand that. I just think that they're really limited and they're playing on fumes. So I agree. I think it's a close game. I do like St. John's to get through, but I want them to get through because I think they'll beat Creighton. I think Creighton, without Zagorowski, is very, very weak. I'll definitely take the points. I'll probably just take the points either way, whether it's Georgetown or St. John's.
I think that makes sense, and I do like St. John's here as well. And I think, to be honest, we can throw Georgetown into that St. Mary's conversation that we had earlier, where those guys have just been playing their tails off for Coach Ewing. And at some point you hit a wall, and at some point you have X amount of efforts during the season. And this might be the point where they just, run out of efforts because they have efforted literally every game during the regular season in the Big East.
Gus, really quick, going to go off script here. I talked. We did a pod on action. We were previewing each of the conference tournaments. Do you see the bottom of this bracket? To me, is very straightforward. So DePaul, Xavier, Scruggs is day to day. Okay, winner plays Nova. You like Nova in that matchup, I assume, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Okay, so now Marquette, Seton Hall. Now listen, I understand. I talked about this ghost of Kemba Walker, right? So Kemba Walker, 2011. Gus, they lost like 4 or 5 coming into the tournament, and then Kemba Walker went absolutely bananas. So listen, could Marcus Howard do that? Sure. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it against Seton Hall. I think they're going to be live. I think they've had some time to rest here. But to me, it's very straightforward. I could make an argument, Gus. Villanova, Seton Hall, that's a pretty much a shoo-in in my book. And what do you think? Do you think that's a shoo-in, or do you think Marquette has a better chance? And who do you like in Villanova, Seton Hall right now if they play?
Okay, so let me hit backtrack. Totally on board with what you just said. I think if we're going to go ghost to Kemba Walker with anybody, I think we're going to play that game with Miles Powell.
Yeah, you could. Absolutely. That's what Stuckey said. Stuckey said that's exactly right. Yes. Very
right.
Good.
So, okay, I'm glad I'm online. Stuckey and I are seeing things similarly as far as who the star player is going to be.
He said there's a lot of Kemba Walkers. And, Butler, Diallo. There's a lot of Kemba Walkers you can have there, right? Kemba Walker.
Haunted by multiple
There's the pond. There it is. Kemba Walker Redux. Go ahead.
Very good. No, I've had a blind spot for Nova the past couple of years, but I really like this makeup Nova team.
Connors liked them, right?
He was totally on board with them too, but I'll tell you what, he really liked Seton Hall. He was on board with Seton Hall since the beginning of the season. He's been on them, and he said now that they're finally healthy and they've played a couple of games together, he said the Big East tournament might be the time where they actually get right and get dangerous.
Can you explain to me why I didn't take Gonzaga second half minus 4.5? What do I have? Does your best friend have any guts whatsoever?
What is your problem?
It's 70-55. This game's over. But and why did I take the over? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm multitasking.
I know, but why didn't you take the over?
4.5. They're going to win by 6. I laid 8.5. What am I doing? God, soft. I'm soft. Go ahead.
You're not soft. Okay, so I like Seton Hall to get through. I think they're finally whole. I think Gill is actually going to impact this tournament in a weird way on the defensive end. I think he's going to impact Villanova on the defensive end in an odd way as well. Villanova is going to be all threes and all layups. So in order to beat Seton Hall, I think if Gill is playing the way that he's been playing defensively, they're going to have to can, 12, 14 threes to beat Seton Hall. So if we're going to go like that far down the bracket, I kind of like Seton Hall getting through, even though I really like this Villanova team.
That's totally fair. I picked Villanova from the bottom part of the bracket only because I think the tendinitis thing may be a bigger issue than they're letting on. And, of course, Willard J. Wright, we've talked about that. But I think it's a coin flip game. I think it's a wonderful game. I think Big East tournament fans, if they're allowed to go to the game, are going to love this. I think it's a last possession sort of game. Top part of the bracket, partner. Who do you think I picked? We haven't talked about him yet.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Do you think, let's see, who's hiding up there?
Who have we not mentioned at all?
Has to be Providence.
You got it. Providence has won 6 games in a row. They beat Seton Hall, Marquette, Nova. They're on fire. Listen, they're a good match for Butler. Does not want to see Providence because they match up well. They defend the 3 well, which hurts Butler. Kamar Baldwin, by the way, and we didn't talk about him and Najee Marshall. I mean, that was just craziness. But
yeah.
I think Providence is going to play Villanova. I could easily see Seton Hall. I think Providence is going through with the injury to Zagorowski. So I had Providence Nova. You want to say you think Butler or you want to do Providence Seton Hall?
No, I'll tell you right now. I think Providence, because that was one of the games I was going to talk about, was Butler Providence. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the nation right now. Yep. And if you're going to, the only thing stopping them is the shot maker that is Kamar Baldwin. If it gets to be a last possession game with Butler and Baldwin has the ball, look out. He's going to make that.
But what is Najee Marshall doing? You're up 2. He's backpedaling on Kamar Baldwin like we're doing that old drill we used to do in high school. I mean, it's Kamar Baldwin, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think Kamar Baldwin channeled his inner Jordan Ford there and just put them on skates. They have very similar skill sets as far as breaking down people on the perimeter.
Can somebody double the best player? I know we don't want to foul them, or we do want to foul them, or whatever. Can we get the ball out of Kamar Baldwin's hands? Is that Najee Marshall's just backing up? Later, here comes Kamar Baldwin. And by the way, he's lefty. He likes going right to pull up. That's his thing. Marshall lets him go. Goes right, pulls up. Good night. Have a nice night. It's good.
Can we have Golden or somebody else beat you? Is that a thing?
Right. Bryce Z.
Right. Yeah, Z. Right. I think I would roll with Coach Cooley here, and here's why. He has this knack for being very comfortable and thriving in situations and venues like Madison Square Garden. They're not ranked. They have double-digit losses. They are so under the radar, except for people that are paying attention to really paying attention to the Big East play. People are going to look up and they're going to be like, wait, Providence is in the finals?
Cooley splits his pants again, gets a sponsorship.
Right. Yeah. Great story. Yeah. Beautiful story.
So we're seeing it there. So basically, you and I will have some popcorn, watch Nova Seton Hall, okay? And the winner of that's going to play Providence. Yeah, I got it. I'm in.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. We sidetracked there with our 6-pack of games. Let's go.
It's 17, by the way. Good.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Jordan Ford's I've had enough. I've scored 65,000 points in 3 games, guys. What do you want me to do? Okay.
And played 60 zillion minutes.
Right. Fitz. You can be back. Wait, Fitz, you had 4 threes, my man. Where are you? Fitz.
Look, get that guy Gatorade, please.
Sorry. Got Jordan Ford. NBA player. I'm with you. 100%. Go ahead.
All right, definitely.
Josh Hart's an NBA player. He's doing very well. Jordan Ford can't. I mean, I know Hart's bigger, but Jordan Ford, little Muskrat Love, we're way off the pod. I'm sorry. Go back.
Bring it back. Reel it back in, kid. Okay. Let's go Michigan Rutgers. The first thing we have to say, is Rutgers in or do they
that's it. Per one at Purdue, they're in. They would have been in either way, Gus. They beat Maryland. They're in, but they're really in. 100%.
Okay. So they don't – this is not a win.
No, they're in. They'd be. Well, what do I know? Okay, well, I guess I would say I say what does Joe Lunardi know? But Archie Miller evidently doesn't like him very much, so I don't say Joe Lunardi. Did you hear what Archie Miller said?
How funny was the Sesame Street?
The Sesame Street. What are you doing, Archie? What are you doing? You did a great job coaching this year. You have a minimal talent. You did a great job. Why are you taking a pot shot at Joe Lunardi? I mean, what did Joe Lunardi he didn't say you're in? Is that like a crime? It's his job. I mean, come on, Archie. Bad luck. Go ahead.
And really, like, to go the Sesame Street route, if you want to just say, like, I don't appreciate him not picking us or something like that, like, go that way. Right. Don't like insult that way. That seemed like kind of silly. I didn't think it was a great look for Archie, and I think usually he comes off as a likable guy, and that didn't seem like a likable
Gus, but that's me. I'm making a joke. I'm hoping to get in, and then I'm making a joke. I'm going on ESPN. I go, where's Lunardi? He didn't have us in. Well, you make it just his job. His job. It's like what Mad Dog Russo used to do. Bad job by me. Just make a joke of it. It's not personal. It's Lunardi doesn't think you deserve to be in. By the way, Archie, I don't either. But that's just me.
Fair enough. So let's just start this now. Can we just start? We'll steal this from a Stephen Baker touchdown maker. Why don't we just
very good, very nice. Yes,
Geo Baker the shot maker. I mean that's all this kid does.
Very good. Very good.
This kid has the ball in his hands at the end of the game. He's as good as Jordan Ford. He's as good as Kamar Baldwin, and he is going to wow you with what he does with the ball in his hands in an end game situation. If you look at the stats. His stats are not going to wow you like Kamar Baldwin's. His stats are not going to wow you like Jordan Ford's. His stats are not going to wow you like, Marcus Howard. But I'll tell you what, this dude just hits big shots for a program that has been searching for it for 25 years. That guy is really impressive. Whatever team he's on, Big Ten, first, second, or third team, I have no problem with it. If they somehow voted him on first team, awesome. If he's on, but he needs to be somewhere because he's been that impactful for this program. And I'll tell you what, if it comes down, Bankers Life Arena at high noon, I'd be scared. I'd be scared out of my boots if I was Michigan and he had the ball in his hands with the game on the line.
Here's my thought on this. This one's a fascinating one, this tournament. Wisconsin has like the third best odds, and they're the number 1 seed. Okay, so I guess we don't like Wisconsin. I don't know what the problem is.
Right. I'm
going to say that Rutgers got over the hump. Okay, I'm going to go with Rutgers is good. Okay, that's what I'm going with. And I think Michigan is going the wrong way. I knew they were a no-show against Maryland. I think Juwan Howard can do a fine job. I just think it was impossible coming from Beeline. I think the team is more loosey-goosey. I think there's been discipline issues. I don't think they play as well on the road anymore. Wagner versus Wagner, younger Wagner, older Wagner, I think that's also an issue. I like Rutgers to go through here. I think Rutgers-Wisconsin is a phenomenal game. I'm with Geo Baker. Ron Harper, I got to see play in high school. He's excellent. I think Rutgers is going to get past Michigan. I absolutely do. And I think they're going to play Wisconsin. And I don't understand how Wisconsin has the third best odds to win. They're the number 1 seed. I don't get it. So you want to talk about betting value? How's that not betting value? I mean, Wisconsin's won on the road. They won at Penn State, right? Wisconsin won at Indiana. Archie Miller won at Indiana. Okay, I don't get that one. This one, besides being the best conference, Gus, in the country this year, we understand that. This is a fascinating tournament. Can I throw something at you really quickly here? We're off script. There's no on script. By the way, it's 21. Okay, so Michigan State. We agree. Michigan State is hot, scalding hot right now. Right.
They have some things figured out now.
Anything frisky with Purdue or Ohio State against them, or no? Second round, whoever wins.
No. I think Ohio State is definitely live against them. I think they actually match up pretty decently.
I think it's frisky, but I think Michigan State gets through. Would you put?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
All right. Let me give you a hypothetical. Are you buying this or not? Turgeon talked about the gorilla off his back. He actually mentioned that in the post game when they beat Michigan. That I got the 1,000-pound gorilla off their back. I think he's gone in the first round. I think they're a team that's always been a little frisky. Turgeon now got the big monkey off his back. Now we're talking about possibly Penn State, or it could be Indiana. I don't think Nebraska's winning. I think Indiana beats Nebraska. But Indiana, Penn State, knock off Maryland? No. Cowan, too much?
No? Absolutely. I think, again, we can default to the conversation that we had with Colgate and BU. If you're going to have the best player on the floor in Stevens, then you're going to have a shot. And they're kind of talk about playing with house money and the gorilla off their back. I mean, that's the statement that Penn State should be shouting from the mountaintops.
All right.
They are in the tournament. Same thing as Rutgers. They are in the tournament. They've had an unbelievable year. They have been nationally ranked multiple times. And talk about the gorilla off their back. I mean, Penn State is going to be the most loosey-goosey team there. That absolutely Penn State can make some noise.
And, of course, we're all rooting for round 3 between Iowa and Illinois. Did you see Brad Underwood signed a massive poster of Triggered Fran? So you have Triggered Fran McCaffrey when he's angry. They made a big poster in Illinois, and Underwood signed it across his forehead when he was walking off the court. So DeSumo said it. He goes, we hate them, they hate us, we don't like each other. Everyone wants Iowa, Illinois, right? Rematch round 3. So these are great matchups, man. I mean, imagine Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. Sparty moves on, but Ohio State makes it frisky, and then Turgeon, sleeping because he got the monkey off his back. Here comes Penn State, right? That's a pretty good quarterfinal, don't you think?
That's pretty good. I'll tell you what, that Rutgers-Wisconsin game is going to be interesting because the pace of play is going to be like right up both their alleys. Take the under on that game, and then if you're going to go with Iowa-Illinois, I love Illinois in that matchup. I think that their athletes are going to just absolutely dominate, and that's going to trump any shot making that Iowa can take. I don't know. I'm a little bit up in the air with the Michigan State and the Ohio State, and then I'm kind of with you. I think Maryland might be there might be something faulty.
And Gus, you just hit a really good point. I want to remind the listeners, folks, neutral court unders. Okay, neutral court unders at all times. I
do that.
I saw one there where Oral Roberts, and this was funny. The over under for the Oral Roberts game, they ended up playing. Omaha, Nebraska. That's it. Omaha, Nebraska. The over-under was 160, Gus. Now, I know they play fast-paced, but now we're at a neutral court, right? Halftime score 27-24. So one of our listeners goes, if we don't win this one, if they give up 110 points in the second half, I'm done. I'm done with Camp League forever. So Gus had a really good point. Neutral court unders, particularly in the conference finals, right? Because we're celebrities nervous. Okay, nobody wants
valuing possessions. Yeah.
So Wisconsin, Rutgers, great point. And if we get like a Michigan State, like Iowa, final, that line's gonna be like 160 points, right? They go up and down the court. No way. Nobody. Neutral
chance.
court unders, just something to be aware of.
By the way, there's no chance that Iowa's going to make the finals.
I kind of picked them, Gus. I did. I know.
You did? Well, we're on opposite ends of the spectrum there.
No, I know. You're right. I don't know why. It's like bad sushi. Remember last year? But Garza's that good, and I thought they showed some moxie coming back at Illinois. I mean, they were down like 18, no? I don't know. I get it. Okay, I like Tucson. Fair. All right, fine. I get it.
We're going to agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's fair. I got it. I think I had Sparty, Iowa. No, can't see. Okay, moving on.
No, I don't think so.
That's terrible. Triggered Fran.
Trigger Fran. All right, how about Texas? Somehow these two teams are meeting on the bubble. It seemed like Texas Tech was ranked just a couple of weeks ago, and now people were calling for Shaka's game and Shaka's job. And now it seems like this might be like a Dayton extended game, like win and you're in and you're going to get an invite. I think this game is going to be, like we talked about, take the under. I think this is going to be one of those games, definitely take the under, because they're going to value every possession like it's gold here, because they're literally might be playing for an invite for March here. This is a fascinating matchup.
I think it's fascinating, and I'm really fired up to see who's going to get the chance to get absolutely destroyed by Kansas in the next round. I think it's going to be fascinating. Texas Tech's going to be a war. Like you said, both teams are on the bubble. Here comes a tough rock fight, back and forth. Matt Coleman's, good. Here comes Andrew Jones. The guy's a warrior. Here comes Tech. Moretti shooting threes, but misses key free throws. Okay, I throw that in there. Okay, Ramsey's tough. Here we go. Next, Kansas wins by 20. So I think it's a great game. I do. I have no idea which way I'm going to lean. I'm curious to see what the line is. It'll be Thursday. We're taping this on Tuesday night. But to me, Gus, and I had to preview this one for action. I'm putting an article out tomorrow.
Right.
It's Kansas Baylor round 3. I don't see any value in any futures. Oklahoma takes care of the ball. I get it. Austin Reeves, 41, the whole shot. Nice comeback. Love it. That's great. I don't see them beating Baylor. Baylor had a chance to rest now. Maceo Teague. Here comes Jared Butler. The whole group, fine. West Virginia, I can't see them, Gus, winning 3 games against Oklahoma, Baylor, and Kansas with no guards. And they're away from home.
Absolutely.
Nice win against Baylor. I don't see any future value here at all. I think this is one of the easier ones to project. I think it's Kansas Baylor round 3. Last point for your partner. Tomorrow, there's an Iowa State team. Iowa State has not won a game on the road this year. I repeat, Iowa State has not won any game away from home this year. They haven't. They're not good. Halliburton was good. He's not there anymore. I'm taking Oak State, who crushed Texas, by the way. They were up by 40 in that game. Love Oak State. I think I'm giving 8 points. No problem there. So that's my only insight into this. Texas Tech, I agree. Rock fight, great game. I can't wait to see who has the right to lose to Kansas by 20.
And I think, and you mentioned both of these teams that I'll bring up on the last game. It's West Virginia and Oklahoma, and I feel like this game is not dissimilar from Texas Tech and Texas, where both of these teams are a little bubbly currently. I mean, you can project both of them in. West Virginia looked like a sneaky Final Four team just a month back, and Oklahoma was like a non-talking point. But after dropping a handful of Big 12 games and having Austin Reeves go for 41, like you mentioned, and doing his finest Kamar Baldwin, Jordan Ford impersonation in the final seconds against TCU, the Sooners look to be back in the tourney conversation. This is a fascinating game. And, Mike, the thing that I'm really fascinated by this is the coaching. These are two of the best coaches in the game in like a championship situation down the road. I know we just mentioned that, like, Kansas and Baylor are going to play each other. But I'll tell you what, I have a little lean here, and I think I'm leaning Oklahoma. Do you have a feel one way or the other?
Oh, interesting. Oklahoma against Baylor, you mean? Or against West Virginia?
No, I was West Virginia.
Yeah, I'll go Oklahoma. The triple-headed monster, I think Oklahoma has done an impressive job here, and they went into... Oklahoma ended up going into West Virginia and winning recently. It was February 29th, 73-62. I'm leaning Oklahoma. I said the only future you could convince me of is if you think Oklahoma is going to beat Baylor, because they're going to beat Baylor and Kansas back-to-back consecutive nights in Kansas City.
Impossible.
And listen, I brought up on the other podcast, I brought up that, listen, Frank Mason's year, no Boucher, Oregon goes into Kansas City and beats Kansas City. I get it. It's not like they're invincible there, but I just don't see it happening. I just want, because people are going to correct me. Okay, people are out there counting stats. Just want to say, I apologize. Iowa State did beat Alabama on a neutral. Okay, so they have one win this year, guys. One win out of 31 games, okay, away from home. So I know we're going to get all mad at me. They did beat Alabama in a neutral, but that's also with Halliburton. Prentice Nixon, is he playing game time decision? Maybe. I'm sorry. I can't see this team. I don't think Bolton's playing at all. So Oak State to the window. Don't worry about it.
I think you're right there. And by the way, that must really sting for Nate Oates. That's the only loss that they have.
Nate, tough.
Wow, ouch, tough.
Yeah.
All right, and I think listeners will get back in your ear with a couple of other tournaments that we'll talk about. A couple of the other ones that we'll have to talk about might be the the MAC, the Southland, of course, the MEAC, Sun Belt, Fun Belt a little bit later this week, and of course we'll cover the big ones a little bit later. Mike, is there anything else that you want to hit on for the listeners out there during this particular podcast?
Just a couple things tomorrow night. We talked about Sacramento State. We've mentioned them a couple times. They slow it down to a snail's pace, so I like the under there against Weber. That game's going to be played in Boise. Okay, so there's another neutral site game for tomorrow night.
Little altitude there as well.
Hey, Gus, what do you think about this one? Really quick. Minnesota minus 8.5 against Northwestern.
Northwestern's been a little frisky as of late.
Bankers Life Fieldhouse do anything for you? Indianapolis? No.
No, it does nothing for me.
Okay.
It does nothing for Minnesota. If I were leaning one way, I'd go Northwestern in points there. I think that might be a bit closer than you think, even though on paper it seems like Minnesota should win by 12.
Yeah, and I took the under there also, neutral court under. Yeah, that's all I got for you. We're good.
All right, cool. Listeners, if you really like what you're listening to, then please don't be afraid. Give the podcast a follow over at Twitter. At SDS Podcast, efficiency of keystrokes, of course. Give Mike a follow over on Twitter, at Randall Rant. He is insightful, educational, and entertaining all in one nice, tidy little package. And if you really like what you're listening to, please don't be afraid to give the podcast a nice, kind review, especially during March, on your podcast consumption vehicle of choice. Kindness is always cool. We appreciate anything out there. We're just two guys doing a little college basketball podcast against all the big boys. Help us hold our ground with a kind review. Mike, we'll catch up with the listeners before we know it, before we know it. Cheers, Cilantro, Grazie, everybody.
Gonzaga 84, St. Mary's 66. Give the points and the over, both to the window.